Water damage, it's one of the most common and, let's be honest, most stressful things a homeowner can go through. That sinking feeling in your stomach when you see water pooling where it should not be, it's all too real. But having a clear plan of attack can change everything. So in this explainer, we're going to give you that exact roadmap, helping you turn that chaos into a controlled, step-by-step recovery. So here's the game plan. First, we'll dig into the hidden threats that put your home at risk in the first place. Then, we'll look at why that first hour is so incredibly critical. From there, we'll open up the professional restoration playbook, dive into the actual science of drying a house, and finally, we'll map out your path to getting your home and your life back to normal. All right, let's get right into it. Section 1. The inevitable threat. Before we can even talk about how to fix the problem, we really need to understand why some homes are basically a ticking time bomb for water damage. We're going to look at factors both outside and inside your walls. I mean, it's just water, right? So what makes it so uniquely destructive to a house? Well, the answer isn't just about the water itself, but how fast it moves and what it brings to life in the process. And what's really interesting is how all these different risks can stack up to create a perfect storm. Maybe you live in a low-lying area with clay soil that just holds onto water like a sponge. Then, inside, you've got old pipes and a washing machine hose that's just waiting for its moment to fail. Any one of these is a headache. Put them together, and water damage starts to feel less like a possibility and more like an inevitability. And this is the number that you really need to remember. 48 hours. In a damp, humid environment, that's literally all it takes for mold to start growing. The second that water shows up, a clock starts ticking. And that urgency, it drives every single thing that happens next. That sense of urgency throws us right into Section 2, the critical first hour. What you do, or what a professional does, right after you find the water can save you thousands of dollars and weeks of frustration down the road. So here's your new magic number. 60 minutes. That's the gold standard, the target response time for a professional crew to be at your front door after you make that panicked phone call. I mean, getting boots on the ground that fast, it's the single biggest factor in preventing floors from warping and stopping mold before it even gets a chance to start. And this gives you a great picture of what that first hour is like. It's really a controlled frenzy of activity. The pros come in, find the source, and shut it down. Then they're assessing the full scope of the damage, often with high-tech tools, and immediately starting to pump out any standing water. At the same time, they're moving your furniture and belongings out of harm's way, ripping out things like soggy carpet padding that act like sponges, and getting the first big fans and dehumidifiers up and running. So you're probably wondering, how does all that initial chaos turn into an actual organized plan? Well, that brings us to Section 3, the restoration playbook. This is the proven, structured process that takes a property from disaster zone back to being a home. Pretty much every professional job follows this exact three-phase approach. It all kicks off with that emergency extraction we just talked about. But then comes phase 2, which you could argue is the most important, structural drying. This is all about tackling the moisture you can't see. And only when the structure is proven to be dry does that final phase, reconstruction, even begin. Okay, and this is a really important distinction to get straight in your head. People use these terms interchangeably, but they're totally different. Mitigation is the emergency first aid. It's about stopping the bleeding. You stop the leak, get the water out, and stabilize everything. That's usually the first 3 to 5 days. Restoration, that's what comes after. That's healing the wound, rebuilding, repairing, and making your home look like it did before the mess. All right, now we get to the really cool part, at least for me. Section 4, fighting the unseen enemy. This is where we go from emergency response to pure science and technology. Because, and this is so critical to understand, that puddle of water on your floor is just the tip of the iceberg. The real enemy, the one that causes the long-term damage, is the hidden moisture that's quietly wicking up inside your drywall, soaking into the wood framing and getting trapped where you can't see it. That's the real villain of the story. So how do you fight an enemy you can't even see? With science, of course. It's a field called psychrometrics, and put simply, professionals use their knowledge of how moist air behaves to basically turn your house into a giant, high-tech drying chamber. By carefully controlling the temperature, the humidity, and the airflow, they create an environment that literally pulls trapped moisture out of the walls and into the air, where their machines can capture and remove it for good.
And they do this with a whole toolkit of gear that you definitely don't have in your garage. They have thermal cameras that let them literally see temperature differences caused by moisture behind your walls. They use special moisture meters to get precise readings of exactly how wet your drywall or wood studs are. Then the heavy hitters come in, industrial-grade dehumidifiers and high-velocity air movers that work together to pull gallons and gallons of water out of the air every single day.
And this whole drying process isn't just guesswork. It follows a pretty standard timeline. Day 1 is all about getting the standing water out and setting up all that equipment. Then, for the next several days, it's about active monitoring. A technician comes out every day, takes those moisture readings, and adjusts the equipment as needed to maximize drying. It's a managed process. And usually by day 5 to 7, everything is confirmed to be back to its normal dry state.
Okay, so the house is finally dry. Phew. But we're not quite out of the woods yet. Now we need to move on to our final section, Section 5, the road to recovery. This is where we tackle all those practical, real-world questions that every homeowner has.
And let's start with the big one, the question that's on absolutely everyone's mind. Is my insurance actually going to pay for all of this?
As you can see here, it really all boils down to one key thing, the source of the water. If the damage was from a sudden and accidental event, like a pipe that burst out of nowhere, you are almost definitely covered. But if it was caused by a slow, gradual leak that you probably should have noticed and fixed, your insurance company is likely going to deny that claim. And this is a huge one. Damage from a storm surge or general flooding is not covered by a standard policy. For that, you need separate flood insurance.
So what's the big takeaway here? First, document everything. Start taking photos the second you can. But more importantly, a good restoration company becomes your best friend in this situation. They speak the same language as the insurance adjusters, they use the same software to write estimates, and they can basically manage the whole claim for you, which just takes a massive weight off your shoulders. All right, another really practical question we hear all the time. What about you? Where do you go during all this? Can you actually stay in your home while the work is being done? Well, it really depends. If you've got a small leak that's contained to one room, yeah, you can probably stay. But for any large-scale damage, or if there are any safety red flags like mold or structural issues, you'll probably need to find another place to stay for a bit. And seriously, do not underestimate the disruption. That drying equipment is loud, like 24/7, impossible to sleep through it loud. And at last, we get to the finish line, the final walkthrough. This isn't just a quick glance around. This is your chance to walk through every inch of the repaired area with your project manager. You get to make sure the paint matches perfectly, that the new baseboards are flawless, and that your home has truly been returned to its pre-loss condition. It's the moment you officially get your home back. So there you have it. You've gone from crisis to control. Your home is dry, it's repaired, it's safe again. But I want to leave you with one final thought. Now that the chaos is over, what's the one step you can take today, whether it's spending $5 on a new washing machine hose, testing your sump pump, or just finally reading your insurance policy to make sure you never, ever have to go through this whole ordeal again?